clinical research in critical care medicine at the Philippine Heart Center. With this, she brings in this powerful combination of skills to her frontline role as the head of the cardiovascular ICU at AUF Medical Center. She also serves as the Assistant Training Officer for External Training and Development, also holding fellowships in internal medicine, cardiology, and critical care. After completing his adult cardiology training fellowship training at the Philippine Heart Center, he pursued a highly specialized clinical research fellowship in interventional cardiology at the Medical City. His academic excellence is well recognized. He is a recipient of the prestigious Asia Pacific Society of Cardiology Scholarship Grant. He is also a fellow of the Philippine College of Physicians, Philippine College of Cardiology, Philippine Society of Cardiovascular Catheterization and Intervention, as well as the American College of Cardiologists and European Society of Cardiology. Also, he was certified by the European Association of Percutaneous Cardiovascular Interventions. And finally, we are joined by none other than Dr. Rector Villajuan. Dr. Villajuan brings the essential surgical perspective to this panel. He is a fellow of the Philippine College of Surgeons and the Philippine Association of Thoracic and Cardiovascular Surgeons. He specialized in thoracic and cardiovascular surgery at the Philippine Heart Center. For over a decade, he has been the head of the cardiovascular operating room at the AUF Medical Center. And finally, to moderate this session, let us welcome Dr. Victor Jonathan Benitez. Dr. Benitez is a fellow of the Philippine College of Physicians and the Philippine College of Cardiology. He is a product of the cardiovascular training program at the Angeles University Foundation Cardiovascular Institute. He also served as the past president of the PHA Central Luzon in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome our speakers and moderators.
Thank you, Dr. Mel. And good afternoon to everyone. Medyo inaantok na ata lahat. I think we have a surprise for later. So get ready, Sir Chan. Alright, so good afternoon to everyone. It will be my pleasure to moderate for this afternoon session, as we will be graced by our well-known cardiologist. I'm very fortunate. I have 2 cardiologists and 1 surgeon in my session. We have 1 interventional and 1 critical care and thoraco-vascular surgeon. This afternoon session entitled Cardiogenic Shock in ACS with Mechanical Complication. Ventricular septal rupture is a rare case complicating our ACS patients. Before I give you to our speakers, let me just enumerate the salient features of our case. We have a case of Mr. L.Y., a 53-year-old male and heavy smoker with a history of 45-year history of smoking, presented with a 3-hour history of chest heaviness radiating to both arms, associated with nausea. He was diagnosed with an anterior ST elevation MI and underwent successful primary PCI of the left anterior descending coronary artery. On day 1 post-PCI, patients had developed persistent hypotension and pulmonary congestion. Vital signs were as follows, where it showed that the blood pressure is 74/48, tachycardic at 128 beats per minute, and tachypneic with an RR of 30 cycles per minute. Patients noted to be desaturated with an O2 sat of 86% on high flow O2. Physical examination noted that the patient is cold clammy with an elevated JBP, a new harsh monosystolic murmur that is best heard at the left lower sternal border with a palpable trill. Crackles are present in both lung fields with peripheral pulses are weak.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be here to join you guys. I hope you bear with me. I'm losing my voice. Perks of working in the ICU. Okay, so we will discuss cardiogenic shock. I have nothing to disclose for this particular lecture. First off, I think it is very important for us to discuss this fully. We have to define terms. Lucky for me, you've been through an ICU masterclass of inotropes and vasopressors. Dr. Alacanil has walked you through fluid management, which is actually applicable form of shock. Now we go into cardiogenic shock. Cardiogenic shock is defined as a disorder that results in both clinical and biochemical evidence of sustained tissue hypoperfusion, irrespective of underlying blood pressure. Again, let's stress that for the trainees. Cardiogenic shock is a cardiac disorder wherein there is tissue hypoperfusion. So you do not wait for a patient to be hypotensive to label them as shocked. Another definition is that it can result in systolic hypotension, or at least a BP of less than 90 millimeters mercury, lasting for about more than 30 minutes, or there is a need for you to start vasopressors, inotropes, or mechanical circulatory support to be able to maintain that systolic blood pressure with evidence of hypoperfusion. Now, I'm not sure if you were familiar with this, but there are phenotypes of cardiogenic shock. This is from the SCAI, the Society for Cardiovascular Angiography and Interventions. As you can see, a patient is defined as A, at risk, when there are risk factors for cardiogenic shock, but no symptoms as of yet.
Lalabas ako.
Letter B, beginning cardiogenic shock when there is relative hypotension or tachycardia without hypoperfusion. Letter C is the classic shock. I think you would agree with me when you are presented with that kind of patient that BJ gave us earlier, that this is probably where our patient is. Classic, he has hypoperfusion, and I think you've seen the vital.
On the right, which balance the following factors. So stable patients are better candidates for delayed closure, while unstable patients require immediate support. In summary, conservative management. Conservative management is not advisable. It is universally almost fatal, while timed surgical or transcatheter closure, guided by hemodynamic instability and tissue condition, offers the best chance for survival. So I would like to discuss to you the ideal anatomy for transcatheter closure. So the idea is it is single, discrete, circular or oval, and it has at least 5 mm of firm rims to anchor the device securely. This image shows the traditional method of closing a VSR using a cribriform occluder device, which have two discs that is deployed on either side of the rupture, which eventually seals the defect. However, in reality, post-infarction VSRs are often more complex, irregular, serpentinous, and sometimes multiple with friable necrotic tissue. That's why new techniques and specialized devices are now being developed to address this limitation. A multidisciplinary heart team approach is essential for optimal management and decision making. Most patients are high or prohibitive risk for surgery, hence transcatheter therapy serves as a viable alternative. And continuous innovations in techniques device design is needed to address the unique and complex nature of post-infarction VSR.
And talk about the surgeon's perspective with regards to this fatal mechanical complication of acute MI. I think the two speakers have extensively discussed the disease, and I'll try to keep it short, not too technical, and just emphasize on the key numbers and one important thing with post-MI-VSR. I don't have any disclosures. Also, I'm a little bit biased. So, we go with numbers, 30 to 60% operative mortality rate. Kung ganyan yung mortality rate, hindi na magre-refer si Dr. Reblando, this is unacceptable. If it were any other cardiac case, that's too high mortality rate. But the reality is that these are the internationally reported numbers, and it has a very high mortality rate when you do surgery on these cases. But why then do we do you need to refer for surgery? Because basically, if you manage them medically, majority of them will die. And even 50% will die in the first week, 5 days after the event. So there's no choice actually. And also because of the guidelines. From the guideline, surgery is the gold standard. It's a class 1 recommendation, and both the American College of American Heart Association and the European Society of Cardiology suggest BSR repair. So the question is, it has a high mortality, yes. Even with surgery, yes. Do you need to refer to a cardiac center? Yes. Do you need to refer to a cardiac surgeon? Yes. Are we looking forward to doing these cases? No. Because technically they're very difficult. There's a lot of limitation with regards to doing these cases. That's the suturing around the necrotic tissue, just getting the viable tissue around it. And then
yan yung puso, ma'am,
second
shallow
patch
siya, no?
to close around the first patch.
Yung naka-expose lang yung
I've used the two patches together with using a viable glue.
Magbukas ka ng puso ng baboy, ganyan. Pag binuksan mo, ma'am, ganyan na ganyan.
Put in the viable glue.
Kasi lalong ganisa dyan yung ramid na
Also, operatively, patient the post-operative, it was uneventful. The patient was discharged after, I think, two weeks after. For repair of posterior ventricular septal rupture, this is more complicated because technically involves a more difficult operation. You have to lift the heart, and then there's involvement possibly of the papillary muscle leading to MR, so we have to repair or replace that mitral valve. Post-operative complications could range from 20 to 70%, as was reported. The patient will still have multiple organ failure. There is a possibility for recurrence of BSR and also the possibility for bleeding. So my take-home message is that this post-infarct BSR is rare but very beneficial if the patient can be stabilized. And surgical strategy is individualized. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Billy.